This is a Brooklyn-bound 2 train. The next stop is Wall Street.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Not Your Advisor with NYU Grad on Monday, October 7th. I hope you all had a great weekend. We have a lot to cover today, and I just want to start off. I know I podcast and write about stocks and finance, but Hurricane Milton is no joke. And if you are in the path, I urge you all to get to safety, whether that's inland or north outside of the Tampa Bay area. I think this is one of the largest evacuations in a while since Hurricane Irma. But I just don't want to see people get hurt. This definitely is going to be a big one, and I'm sure the news is going to be horrific after Wednesday. The Tampa Bay International Airport will suspend all operations on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, so you're running out of time. And I bet you the airports are jammed right now. So be safe. Do what you got to do to get to safety today. When you take a look at the price action today, I know the markets were down a lot, but a lot of that had to do with this hurricane. The hurricane grew this morning from a Category 1 to Category 5 in record time, and it hit Category 5 right before noon. And if you look at the S&P futures or any chart, that signified the top of the session. And we sold off hard once I think everyone realized how bad this hurricane is going to be for not only Floridians, but also the country. Because if you take a look at the insurance companies, I've posted in the show notes in the free section a list of maybe 8 insurance companies that that lead the way in policies for Florida, and they're all down pretty big today. So I know with Hurricane Helene, there's been talks about a lot of folks in trouble right now who can't get aid, and I know there's a lot of political back and forth about, are they only getting $750, or is that just the beginning? I've heard reports people are getting rejected. Some people got the money. When is more aid going to come? Not just money, but people, boots on the ground. There's just a lot going on. But it is confirmed that FEMA had put out a statement. Majorca had mentioned that FEMA doesn't have the funding through the hurricane season. And he mentioned that a few days ago, before Hurricane Milton became Category 5. So I hope whatever happens after Wednesday, that recovery and aid does not become politicized, because I also do understand we have an election coming, and I believe Florida as a state has voted Republican for a while, since the 1950s. But I really hope that this is not politicized. That would be a major mistake, because I suspect if it is politicized, other states, citizens from other areas of the country that watch, if there's a lack of action, that watch that, may start to wonder what the hell is going on with the country overall. Are we in a good place or not? So this might be one of those Matrix unplug events if the government does not respond quickly to help the victims of this massive hurricane. I've lived through Hurricane Sandy up here in New York, and I've seen and lived through storm surge. It really is inescapable, because the water is coming up from below or from the ocean, right? In the case of New York, it was coming through the streets, through the sewers, and just rising. I actually saw because we didn't get that much rain during Hurricane Sandy, it just rose from the sea. And at the time where I was living, I could see Water Street and I could see cars parked, and literally minute by minute, the cars just started to disappear under the water. Obviously, with hurricane winds, it's going to be much worse down in Florida. So you all need to be safe. Take this seriously, whether it's Category 5 on Wednesday or Category 3. So just be safe. But just real quickly, if you look at some of these stocks in insurance, Heritage HRTG down 23%, UVE down 19%, HCI Group down 17%, Allstate down 4.8%. Obviously, they have exposure, but they're more of a national distribution for insurance policies. Chubb Insurance down 4.6%, Travelers down 4.3%, Progressive Insurance down 3.8%, AIG down 3.17%. There is a penny stock called Citizens Insurance that's up 16.8%. They have exposure, a lot of exposure in Florida. I am not sure why they're up 16%. They trade very thinly, less than like 100,000 shares. I'm not saying to touch these. I'm just showing you that as a whole, insurance was tanking and took the whole markets with it today. And I'll also post a chart of the S&P futures with a white dashed line for noon, and you'll see that the market's topped there today on intraday. So transitioning a little bit to the markets, because I do want to cover the markets too. I want to thank, just a little bit of housekeeping. I want to thank everyone. This is the 300th podcast. I still cannot believe it. And it's actually more than that, because there were days where I was out sick or I was traveling or things of that nature where I had to skip a podcast or the podcast was a replay episode while I was on vacation. So, but officially, we are at the 300th podcast episode. So thank you so much. I have 612 posts in total. The Substack is read and followed in over 117 countries. And the retention rate right now for the Substack is 93% after 30 days. So thank you so much, whether you're a free or paid subscriber. Transitioning to NVIDIA, because NVIDIA was really holding up the entire markets today. It closed off of the highs, but it still closed green. I'll post a post from TKL, the Kobesi letter. It points out that NVIDIA insiders have sold a whopping, this is not Jensen Huang, this is insiders in general at NVIDIA. They have sold a whopping $1.8 billion worth of stock, or 11 million shares year to date. And that is the most since 2020. So that's kind of an alarm bell. However, NVIDIA is still crushing it. But if you take a look at today's action on the S&P 500, I've sorted by the weighting of the S&P 500, like the biggest weighted companies. And you can see out of like the top 7, NVIDIA is the only one green, up 2.4%. Apple, which is 7% weighting of the S&P, is down almost 2%. Microsoft, which has a weighting of 6.9% of the S&P index, is down 1.5%. Amazon, which is 3.4% of the S&P 500, is down 3.19%. Meta is almost 2% weighting of the S&P 500, down 1.8%. Just take a look at it. This is what I mean. NVIDIA is holding up the entire market. It's the same thing in the NASDAQ 100. NVIDIA is the only one here on this list that is green. And if you take a look at the entire market breadth, we only had a few green tickers today in the mega cap land. NVIDIA was one, PayPal was another, Eli Lilly, Pfizer, ExxonMobil, Chevron. Everything else is red. So how long can this happen? How long can Nvidia be Teflon done? This is a big concern. And if it doesn't concern you, you're going to get smacked and you're going to wonder what the hell happened. Because if the market continues to sell off, they are going to come after Nvidia as well. So let's keep peeling this onion. So the summary of the day, I've kind of gone through why the markets were down, but let's go over the market breadth. So across the NYSE, we had 405 new highs versus 199 new lows. 25% of shares were advancing versus 72% declining. 39% of stocks were below their respective 50-day, and 33% of stocks were below their respective 200-day moving average. When you take a look at the sectors, energy was the only sector up. That makes sense. With a disaster of this size that's potentially going to hit, oil and energy are going to spike, and everything else sold off. To the downside, you had utilities down 2.1%. Just think about all the utility companies that are going to be in a mess after this hurricane passes through. Communication services down 1.9%. Consumer cyclical down 1.5%. Consumer defensive down 1.16%. Financials down 1.1%. Real estate down 0.93%. Tech down 0.56%. Healthcare down 0.53%. Industrials down 0.21%. So what I want to do next is kind of cover what I saw at 3:20 p.m. And that's like close to the close. We basically, as I noted, have been grinding sideways since the September 18th announcement that the FOMC was going to cut 50 basis points. We rallied on the 19th, and then we've been going sideways ever since. And I'll post very plainly this entire window of time from the 19th or the 18th of September till today. And you'll see by that white cloud band is kind of the high of that 19th session. And we've just been trading sideways. However, we are last week we're developing a balance area. And I noted that we were either going to break up or below. We broke up. We got back to that white cloud and reversed, made a U-turn. And today we fell hard, and look where we bounced. We bounced at the lower edge of that previous balance area. And if you take a look at the close, we bounced off of it and could not get back above the high volume node. So tomorrow, what you want to see is how this develops. Are we going to have enough strength to get above 57.50 on the ES futures or not? Or are we going to continue south and break below this balance area? So that's just kind of how I see the chart with my eyes. The other thing that stuck out, the 10-year yield is now above 4.02%. Ding dong, can someone call Jerome Powell? What is going on here? If you look at the historical trends, the Fed has always been behind the bond yields. So they're simply behind. And this indicates to me that the market knows that the Fed is going to have trouble cutting. And they may have to raise. If the 10-year yield continues to go higher, the Fed will have a few options. Only a few options. One is they're going to have to raise rates. Or two, they're going to have to get the second bazooka and start doing QE or quantitative easing. So keep a close eye on the 10-year yield, as well as the 2-year yield inversion or uninversion right now. So let's cover what was strong and what was weak across the S&P and the NASDAQ 100. The strong list is very short. On the S&P, you had Air Products and Chemicals up 9.5%, Generac Holdings up 9%, Albemarle Corp up 2.6, Diamondback Energy up 2.6, Nvidia up 2.34%. The Nasdaq, you had SMCI up 15%, but keep in mind they're still down 50%. Even with today's gain, they're down 50% for the past 6 months. Then you have the same Diamondback Energy and Nvidia. You see how this works? They just duplicate these tickers across all these indices and ETFs. Totally corrupt. All right, so what was weak? This list is much longer. I'll have this in full for paying subscribers, but for the free members, I want to rattle these off. For the S&P, this is all to the downside. This is all percentages. Everest, EG, down 8.48. Arch Capital, ticker symbol ACGL, down 6.45. Assurant, ticker symbol AIZ, down 5.46. Vistra Energy, down 5.3. Allstate, 5.13. Chubb, 4.9. Deckers Outdoors, 4.8. Mosaic Company, 4.6. The Travelers Company, 4.4. Cincinnati Financial, 4.4. Ross Stores, 4.3. Progressive Corp, 4.2. American Waterworks, 4.15. Nextera Energy, 4. Garmin, 3.8. Monster Beverage, 3.93. Adobe, down 3.8. Erie Indemnity Company, down 3.99. Tesla, 3.6. Amentum Holdings, 3.6. Lowe's Corp, 3.5. Brown & Brown, 3.5. W.R. Berkeley, 3.49. Domino's Pizza, 3.47. Hartford Financial, 3.3. Darden Restaurants, 3.3. Ball Corporation, 3.35. And Duke Energy, which I believe they're headquartered near Asheville, North Carolina, down 3.34. On the NASDAQ, we have a lot of duplicates here. But I'll try to get through some of this. Amazon down 3.25, Moderna 2.96, Workday 2.9, Cadence 2.67, CSX 2.71, Microchip Technology 2.3, American Electric Power Company 2.4, Intuitive Surgical 2.4, ASML Holdings 2.45, Alphabet 2.3, MongoDB 2.3, Dollar Tree 2.2, and Team down 2.05%. As I noted, continue to watch yields, the Mag 7, and what is going to happen here with Hurricane Milton. If FEMA's broke, if the government doesn't respond, we might have a big crisis here as a country in the U.S. I know I have a lot of international followers and readers, but that is the situation here in the U.S. right now. I really hope, because there's no doubt that it's going to make landfall, and there's no doubt there's going to be a lot of damage here in Florida. It's really going to be the recovery, getting people help, getting people medical attention, and rebuilding. And if between now and potentially November, if things don't look like the government is helping, I suspect this could sway people. I hope it's not politicalized. I really, really hope it doesn't, because a lot of people are going to be hurt come Wednesday afternoon. So free members, I will see you all after the Tuesday session. Premium members, please stay on so we can go over some charts. That's my train.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.